Iraqis went to the polls this month to elect parliamentarians who will then choose the prime minister. The stakes are high for the Obama administration in terms of the stated goal of a troop withdrawal by the end of 2011. We're here today with Ambassador Hamid Al-Bayati. I'm Pamela Falk for CBS News. Ambassador Al-Bayati, what is a measure of success? 62% of Iraqis went to the polls. Do you believe this was a successful poll, although there was, in fact, violence?
Well, the major point that the violence was much less than previous elections and much less than expected. In actual fact, both U.S. Ambassador to Iraq, Christopher Hill, said the election went smoothly and orderly. And General Oderno challenged those who said that the election was marred with violence by saying only 3 stations in northern province of Nainawa were closed for 15 minutes out of 50,000 stations. So I think security was really good. And the turnout's not bad comparing with the United States, United Kingdom, and the rest of the world. Well,
in fact, it's higher election turnout than in most of the world. The bottom line for Americans is whether or not the U.S. troops will be able to pull out majority by September and all of them except for advisors by the end of 2011. Do you think American troops will be able to withdraw?
Yes, I'm sure now the American troops will be able to withdraw with happiness, with celebration. They will be jubilant because they did a great job. They have victory in Iraq. They removed Saddam regime, and they helped to build democracy, human rights, rule of law, women's rights, and that's the most important issue.
Well, right now there are not election results, and even preliminary results, which will be coming out, will take a few days, the final results, and then, of course, putting together a coalition will take some time. Do you believe that all the different ethnic and sectarian groups in Iraq, the Sunnis, the Shias, Kurdish, tribal groups, have all been included and really saw this election as inclusive?
Pamela, Iraqis never fail to agree. This is very important. Although in democracy you have different point of view, and this is all democracy about. We don't want the rule of one man as Saddam did, or the rule of one party like the Ba'ath Party. We have different ethnic, sectarian, and religious groups, and they are competing through ballot boxes rather than bullet boxes. You know, I think Iraqis now learned how to shout at rather than to shoot at each other. This is the real democracy. However, I don't think they will fail to agree, being Kurds, Arabs, Turkomans, Christians, Sunnis, Shiite. So, in the end of the day, we will have some kind of national unity government as we did in the past.
Now, regardless of the fact that the final results are not out, there appears to be quite a few victory celebrations and at least statements of victory. The current Prime Minister, Nouri al-Maliki, has said that he has garnered enough votes to choose the next Prime Minister, and he's looking for a second term, as well as the Iraqi Party has said that the former Prime Minister, Ayad Alawi, has garnered enough votes to do the same. It does appear that no one can get a majority, or at least to the outside, of the 325 votes. How do you think this is going to play out? A lot of people feel that that's where the fighting will begin.
The bloc of Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki will have the largest number of seats in the parliament, no doubt about that. The second could be the Iraqi National Alliance, and the bloc of Dr. Ayad Alawi could be the third. However, even with the largest number of seats, the Prime Minister needs coalition with other blocs in order to have the two-thirds majority to approve the government.
All right. Now, if that if the majority comes together with, let's say, one of the major parties and the Kurdish vote, which may be up to 60 votes, people seem to be speculating anyway, does that exclude other parties? And also, does it exclude the Sunni vote? There was, of course, the de-Baathification exclusion of almost 500 candidates in the very beginning. The al-Maliki government did put in these 20,000 soldiers into the Iraqi army as part of a compromise. But do you think Sunni vote will feel excluded in these coalitions that are put together?
The Sunnis will never be excluded from any government for the basic reason that they are now everywhere. The Sunnis are with Noor al-Maliki bloc, they are with the Iraqi National Alliance bloc, they are with Ayad Allawi. So this is a different election than 2005, and I can say proudly that this is evolving democracy in Iraq. I'll give you a few examples quickly. In 2005, we have a closed list policy, which means the voters select a political group or party, and the party will select the representative of the parliament. Now the Iraqis select individuals, as I did in Washington when I went to Washington, select individuals from their province. It used to be the whole of Iraq as one electoral circle. Now each province is electoral circle. So if somebody born in Baghdad, as I did, I have to vote for a representative in Baghdad. So this is better than before. And the new important issue that blocs are not based on ethnic, sectarian or religious basis. It's a mix. This is why Sunnis are everywhere and they've never been excluded.
All right. Now the Iraq Supreme Islamic Council is probably second or third in the weight of elections, or so it seems. And that includes the Muqtada al-Sadr, otherwise known as Sadrists. Do you think that they are ready to put down the guns? In other words, there were paramilitary militias that were supported to fight the Sunnis during many years. Will they put down their guns regardless of how much they control in this at least the election of the new prime minister?
The policy of the government in the last 4 years was that arms should be only in the hands of the government, in the hands of Iraqi security forces. When Noor al-Maliki fought al-Mahdi army in Basra, in Baghdad, in Ba'quba, Diyala, and even in Amara, they put down their arms. Now the Sadrist group or Sadr current, they are a political group and they used to be part of the parliament. And they fought the Americans, they fought the Iraqi government. We have to contain them in the political process rather than to have them holding arms against the Iraqi government or the Americans. And now they are part of the political process. And Muqtada al-Sadr himself decided to freeze the Mahdi army for some time, and now it's been freeze forever, so there will be no militias anymore in Iraq.
And he's in exile right now. Does he come back?
I don't know. It's up to him, but he's in exile, but he is still, controlling his group, and he was having press conferences recently about the elections. He had some statement, but I think to contain them in the political process, this is the only solution. Otherwise, to fight them, they will take us nowhere.
And would your guess be that he would come back and become part of a political process after the election, after the prime minister is chosen?
We're going to see what the results of the election are going to be, and then every political group and party, including Muqtada, will decide their future. But as I said, Iraqi National Alliance, including some Sunnis like Sheikh Hamid Al-Bayati, who is from Awakening Council in Anbar and Ramadi, and some other Sunnis. There's Khalid Al-Mullah, who is a religious scholar, Sunni religious scholars from Basra. So the alliance and other blocs having Sunnis, Shiite, all kind of mixed people, which is better situation than 2005.
All right. Now, Americans tend to put things in boxes, and there's almost always, when that bloc, the Islamic Council of Iraq, and the Sadrists are characterized, it's called the pro-Iran. Is that what, in fact, they are, is pro-Iran? And is there a fear of the, at least that sector of Shiite Iraq becoming much closer to Iran, particularly as U.S. troops leave?
Well, in general, the government is accused of being a pro-Iran, which is untrue. Actually, the Iraqi government play an important role in organizing meetings between United States administration and Iranian government in Baghdad about Iraq. And that helped very much with improving security in Iraq. Without those meetings, there were 3 meetings, and they were supposed to have a 4th meeting, which didn't happen. But those meetings helped to improve security in Iraq. I think we have good relation with Iran and the United States at the same time. This is a good sign that we are independent. If we are American agent, we would be against Iran. If we have a special relation with Iran, we would be against America. We believe that we should have good relation with all neighboring countries, with the whole world, because we suffer from Saddam's policies of having wars against neighboring countries and challenging the whole world and the international community.
Well, interestingly, I found a quote from you from 2000, and of course that's before the invasion, the U.S. invasion. But the comment was that Iraqis felt somewhat betrayed by the United States' support of Saddam Hussein. Obviously, that changed, and over time, and that the United States shouldn't worry as much about Iran. Has the United States sort of made amends? Do you think as the United States withdraws, there's a good feeling about the United States in most sectors, in some sectors, in Iraq generally?
I think Iraqi people will never forget how the American helped Iraqis to get rid of Saddam regime. This was a dream for over 30 years to get rid of the most brutal dictatorship in the history. And now with the freedom, with democracy, and hopefully soon with economic prosperity, I think the Iraqi people feel that the best friendly nation in the world is the United States. Therefore, I believe that history is history, and we were always meeting the United States officials in the 90s. We were reminding them of letting down the Iraqi people in 1991 during the uprising. And I had some officials like Martin Indyk and the Secretary of State who said, we are sorry, but we are not apologizing, which is a diplomatic way of saying sorry to the Iraqi people. But now history has changed, and I think the Americans did a great job. It's a noble mission to help a nation to get rid of dictatorship and to build democracy. And by the way, the situation in Iraq is affecting the region. We see for the first time women were allowed to vote and being elected in Kuwait.
I mean, positively.
Yeah, positively. We, in our constitution, 25% of our parliament members are women. How many countries in the world? Anybody can think with 25%. In Egypt now they are considering special quota for women. In Saudi Arabia there was some kind of municipal elections. So there is some improvement, peaceful ways of spreading democracy in the region.
And so who are the spoilers? We still see bombs, we still see a difficult environment in Baghdad, in Fallujah, in Anbar province. Who's doing all this?
Well, Al-Qaeda was the major terrorist groups in Iraq. And Abu Mus'ab al-Zarqawi, the leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, wrote to Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda in the world, that if the Iraqi government gets stronger and control the situation, we will have no option but to pack and leave as we did in Afghanistan. And the only solution, as Abu Mus'ab al-Zarqawi put it, is to bring sectarian war between the Shiites and the Sunnis. This is why in 2006, Iraq was on the verge of a full-scale sectarian war when they attacked the holy shrine in Samarra. And then some Shiite ignorant and extreme people start to attack Sunni mosque and Sunni people. But now the situation is completely different. In the last election, only some kind of small bombs, even sound bombs went off, but few casualties. It's much better than 2 years, 3 years ago. But soon the Iraqi government will focus on services, reconstruction, and I think we have a bright future in Iraq. This is good news.
That's wonderful news. Now, your feeling is that all sides will feel they have the nose in the tent, as the expression goes, as part of the Iraqi political process?
Definitely. I think all the components of the Iraqi people will be part of the government. However, in democracy, you have people in government, you have people in opposition. This is very obvious. And we're going to see some people who are not in the government being opposing the government, which is a healthy phenomenon because they can criticize the government. The government will feel they are under pressure. They are under scrutiny by opposition, etc., etc.
Now, almost the end, last questions, because you've covered a lot of ground, but this was the first election that I had seen where there was so much internet. There was social networking site. The Prime Minister, al-Maliki's government had a Facebook page. This seems to have changed the view. There were 6,000 candidates. This made people who were worried about going out on the street know what the candidates meant. Is it that widespread? Americans are not aware at all that it's so widespread, the use of the internet, particularly in politics, but in Iraq.
I have to say that during Saddam regime, no internet was allowed, no satellite TV was allowed in the country, and no cell phones. So we were out of date in Iraq. After 2003, the first three companies with cell phones, and then the internet, and then the satellite was allowed, and almost every house now have satellite and cell phone and internet. This is why using the internet, even the cell phones, the candidates use cell phones to send messages to voters, and that's a great achievement.
And so it's really revolutionized politics in Iraq.
I think it's a revolution in Iraq and many countries in the region, as you notice, in recent events in many countries in the region.
All right, so final question is, now when American troops do leave, and that is slated for September the majority and the end of 2011 for the vast majority, with some advisors left behind, will the Iraqi forces be able to protect the country nationally, and will there be more violence once the U.S. troops leave that the Iraqi force will have to deal with?
The Iraqi forces will be able to maintain security. We still need to rearm our army to protect Iraq from any danger, because we still need heavy weapons like tanks and airplanes. We have some, but not as much as we need. Terrorists will continue. They are everywhere. They try to strike in the Middle East, in the Far East, even in the West. But the Iraqi government having plans to counter terrorism, and I think we will manage to control the situation well after the withdrawal of U.S. forces.
And what's your timetable? I mean, what is your guess at when the next prime minister? There's an assumption that it will take a little bit of time to get the vote together.
I hope that wouldn't take as long as it took us in the last government. We had the election in December, and we had until June, then we have the government. Hopefully, with the experience we have through negotiation, the government will be set up sooner than last time. Than
the last time, maybe in a few months rather than...
I hope so. A couple of months, I think, will be enough. They already started negotiation, and I think certain groups are already agreed on the future government, but we need to wait for the results of the election, and then serious negotiation will start, and hopefully, as I said, a couple of months will be enough to have a new government.
Well, thank you very much. We've covered a lot of ground. I hope you come back when there is a new prime minister and we can talk about that.
It's a pleasure.
I'm Pamela Falk for CBS News. Thank you to Ambassador Al-Bayati.
Thank you.